And what year did you graduate from North Central College?
Oh, trick question, 1974.
And what did you study while you were there?
Political science and economics.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So with a lot of people, my first question is, how did you find out about North Central College? But in your case, that's a little bit different because the college has always been a part of your life.
Yes. Yeah, my dad was a professor there for 30 years, and we literally lived across the street from Crayler South. So it was pretty hard to miss, real hard to miss. In fact, a summer job, I think I worked maintenance cleaning the dorms during high school. So it was everywhere.
So it was part of your life for growing up. What made you decide that you were going to go there? Because some people, when they're that close, they want to get out.
Well, my dad had gotten a grant to study religions around the world, so we had traveled for a year. I missed my entire junior year in high school, and so when I came back, I was ready to stay at home. And also during those years, I have no idea if it's the same way, but children of professors got free tuition. So it was either you can go to North Central free or you can go somewhere else and pay for it.
So talk to me about, that first year experience at North Central. Even though you're familiar with the college, how was it different from what you maybe were expecting or anticipating?
Well, I think it was probably close to what I was expecting. I mean, I went to Naperville High School, so I'd been right there for years and years. I think we moved to Naperville when I was 10 years old. So, but after my sophomore year, it just seemed so much like high school. I literally moved across the street, paid for the dorm, and moved into a dorm room because it felt too much like high school still.
Well, you're getting free tuition. You could pay for room and board then.
And then in the at midnight, I could run back to the house and raid the refrigerator if we had late night euchre games. We always played a lot of euchre.
Talk to me about maybe some memorable classes and professors and the ones who really kind of started to shape you.
David Froelich, my political science professor, really was the professor I was the closest to, and he's the one that had suggested that I apply for the Washington semester, which is the semester in Washington, D.C. for political science majors. So I got accepted for that program, and then my junior year, I went to D.C. So instead of going to a foreign country like a lot of people do for their junior year, I went to Washington, D.C.,
well, it made sense.
which some people say is a foreign country.
It's got a different vibe. So talk to me about some of the different academic experiences you had. We mentioned the Washington trip, but that kind of maybe helped set you on your path.
Yeah, there was another trip we took freshman or sophomore year with another political science professor, and we actually went to D.C. again. This was a shorter trip, just for a week, and actually sat down with Supreme Court Justice Earl Warren and had a private interview with him for like 45 minutes, I think. Got to ask him questions. So that stuck out in my mind too. That's a memorable experience that you never forget.
What was the most challenging class you had while at North Central?
My father's. I decided to go to law school. Like some other people, my grades weren't really that good my first 2 years, and then I decided I wanted to go to law school. So I buckled down. I got straight A's my junior year. I got straight A's my senior year until the third quarter, and I figured, well, I'm on my way out. I got to take one class from my dad. So on the last day of the class, I was still he gave me a B on a paper, so I made an office appointment, and went in and tried to talk him into giving me an A. And he wouldn't change his mind. So that was the only B I had my last 2 years.
From your father, that's amazing. So you graduate North Central College.
Right.
What happens next?
I was ready for some different weather. I actually applied to a couple of schools in downtown Chicago, but I decided I was ready for some warm weather, so I applied to one school in Florida and one in Southern California. And got accepted to University of San Diego, so picked up and off we went.
Talk to me about a little bit about your law school experience and how North Central set you up for success at law school.
I'm going to answer that this way. I don't think I appreciated North Central until all of my three, as much, until I saw my three daughters going to different schools. And two of them went to big schools. One went to Arizona State and one went to University of Colorado Boulder. And then my other daughter went to North Central. And just kind of seeing the classes with 200 and 250 people, I think my one daughter never even went to a class the first year. So I think I then came to appreciate it even more, you know, the one-on-one experience with the professors and getting to know them and having smaller classes. I think it's more of a, I don't know, a learning experience. I think some people that go through large universities maybe never meet a professor. So.
Well, especially in those early years, you know,
yeah,
days and all that. So talk to me about law school can be challenging.
Right.
But North Central, did North Central help you feel prepared for law school? Did you ever feel like you were floundering, or because of, you know, the liberal arts education you got at North Central, did it help you get through law school?
Well, it definitely helped me, but I did feel like I was floundering. Law school is really more challenging than I expected. But I felt like at North Central, I learned how to write. And I remember there was an old professor, I think it was the historian from North Central, Clarence Roberts. And I remember him having us write a paper every week of every class. I think I wrote 15 papers that year. And so I think that taught me how to write. And so in law school, I actually won the writing competition, got accepted for law review. So I think I owe that to North Central College.
Perfect. So finished law school.
Mm-hmm.
What happened next?
I actually came back and interviewed with a couple of firms in Chicago. One attorney said, "Boy, you're out in Southern California. Why come back to Chicago now?" And I happened to be interviewing back there, and it was like 20 below zero, and I'm walking around Michigan Avenue. So I got a couple of job offers in San Diego and then stayed and raised a family and worked on a career. You know?
Good stuff, good stuff. So talk to me about your first, after first job you accepted here in San Diego.
The law firm that I went to work for was an insurance defense firm, and you're not going to believe the name. It was Hollywood and Rhodes. My first boss's last name was Hollywood. Harrison Hollywood. I wrote my father and he said, "You got to be kidding. That can't possibly, that can't be his name." So that's where I started with my first job for a couple of years. Then I went to work for a business firm and did medical malpractice work, did every kind of law you could possibly think of, and then ended up in construction defect. So
talk to me about the process of opening up this place.
Well, we wanted to have a firm with a little less drama in it. And the firms I had been in over the years, there's a lot of egos in this profession. And I really got pretty sick of it. And so several people came with me and we created a firm that we wanted to focus on the clients more and not so much internal, politics, if you will. And it's been the happiest, most rewarding, satisfying 12 years of my life.
Talk to me about the work you do here.
So we do construction defect. We represent homeowners associations of homeowners when their home starts sliding down the hill, their roofs start leaking, their windows start leaking. And in Southern California, there's a lot of cases like that. So sometimes we occasionally will go to trial. And if I've got a jury, I really almost feel like apologizing for them. You didn't get picked for a murder trial or a really exciting sexual harassment case. We have leaky roofs. So,
well, hopefully those are the ones that can get through quickly.
Yes.
Instead of the
right.
drawn out murder trial.
So I don't know if we're changing the world, but we do feel good when we settle a case for some clients, and people get really emotional when they're dealing with their home because it's their largest investment. So sometimes we're playing therapist, we're playing counselor, whatever it happens to be. So, but it's very rewarding.
Jumping back to your time at North Central College, talk to me about some of the activities you participated in, if you did athletics, kind of like that campus life atmosphere.
Well, I went out for a track and ran track all 4 years. And believe it or not, Al Carius was my coach even back then, and he's still there. So I pole vaulted, which was fun, all 4 years. And we had some great track teams during those years, great cross country teams. I know my roommate, I didn't go out for cross country, but he got up at 4:30 every morning, and I'm going like, how do I end up with a roommate who gets up at 4:30 in the morning to run 16 miles? So, but it was all good. It was all good.
Well, you're young, you just fall back asleep, right?
Right.
Talk to me about that experience of being a student athlete at at Division III. It's not about scholarship. It's not about, oh, I'm going to do this professionally. It's about wanting to do it and enjoying it. So talk to me about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, it is Division III, so there are no scholarships, but it just felt like a continuation of, I had started pole vaulting when I was in junior high because the track coach at Naperville Central was my neighbor, Berger, Coach Berger, who's also a graduate of North Central College. But we did it for fun, and what was Al's saying? Run for fun. So that's what we were doing. It wasn't for a career.
Still trying to get those wins, though, right?
Right, right. And there was a lot of pride in coming from a program or having a program that was so good, that kept winning. So there's a certain amount of pressure that you wanted to live up to the reputation of North Central.
Speaking of that, reputation, not only athletically but academically with the Liberal Arts Foundation, talk to me about kind of the academic opportunities that North Central provided. That you had that DC term and trips and professors getting involved in you. So kind of just building that image of what North Central is academically.
Yeah, I think, and then thinking about what my daughters went through at bigger schools, I think the liberal arts education is a lot more valuable than I just don't think I appreciated it when I was 18 years old. Getting a well-rounded education and instead of something that's kind of more targeted or, I think it's just really valuable now that I've seen what my kids have gone through. So I don't know if that answers your question exactly, but
I think people have misconception. They hear the term liberal arts and they think like finger painting or something. They're not. There's like this, like, oh, well, you're not studying a real thing. But it's like, no, I'm still, I'm studying economics. I'm studying it's not. People don't. I think there's this misconception about like what liberal arts is, and it's like because of the name, I guess, because it says arts.
Mm-hmm.
But the importance of problem solving, critical thinking. Especially today, like what the jobs are going to be. You need to be able to adapt and react.
And I think that's what it does teach you critical thinking, which at least in grad school or law school is really important because it's all trying to figure things out and working through problems. So having a couple of courses in music and a couple of courses in art and a couple of courses in history I think just gives you a well-rounded approach to life. You can adapt to different situations a little bit better, maybe.
For sure. No,
It's been a long time ago. It was 45 years ago. This is my reunion year. So you're stretching my memory.
We got 5 more though, and you get inducted into the 50-year club. How did North Central help prepare you, not just for your career, but for your life, for family, for what you're doing?
Well, I think there's a focus on ethics and social justice. And one great experience I had during my career was when 9/11 happened, they put out a call for volunteer attorneys to represent victims of 9/11. And so we volunteered to represent, so we ended up representing 3 victims of 9/11. And the president of the American Trial Lawyers put together this pro bono program of 2,000 attorneys around the country. So, North Central just, I guess I could say I started, donating time or working in charitable work because of that background. We worked on Habitat for Humanity projects for years and years. And a lot of other charities that I've worked on over the years. So I think that background. I mean, I think my very first year in Naperville, it was either 1960 or 61, and I was still in grade school. Martin Luther King came, and I never saw him, but I remember my dad talking about him. And then a couple of years later, my dad was on the verge of volunteering to be a freedom rider and go down south and help register people to vote. And then my mom slapped him around and said, "Are you crazy? You've got 4 young children. What are you thinking about?" But I've got this faint memory of seeing the buses pull out of town, taking North Central students down south to Birmingham to register, African Americans to vote. So it was kind of just growing up in the whole atmosphere of the college.
I'm saying, from its start with
Right.
A. Smith, the college has been very, I think, a little bit ahead of the curve of the rest of the country when it comes
Right.
to issues like that.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit about how the world is a different place today than it was maybe when you were.
It's really a different place.
But how has North Central remained what has remained constant about North Central from what you can tell, with your daughter having been there, about how they're still preparing students for this changing world?
Well, I mean, all the program, the Science Center, I'm looking forward to seeing it because I haven't seen it yet. I've heard great things about the Science Center, and I think North Central's adapted to being in the Chicago suburbs where there's been a lot of growth in high tech and science, and it seems like they've adapted to that, and enrollment keeps growing, which is going to be a challenge as the years go on with additional buildings, but they seem to be doing a great job. So
I think in terms of, liberal arts colleges of its size, a lot of them are declining a bit, and North Central seems to be on the upswing still.
So it's had good leadership, I think. I mean, it's been fortunate for the presidents that college has had over the years, and the board of trustees have, I think, been forward-thinking. When Brittany went to North Central, that was kind of exciting for me that she was going to go to my alma mater. And when she went and did the tour of Naperville and the college, she said, "Boy, Naperville is such a cool city." And I said, "It is?" When I went there was only 15,000 people, and there was one bar, the Lantern, which I guess is still there. So, Naperville's grown too, and I think the fact that Naperville's grown and got to be a beautiful, beautiful large town or small city has made North Central better too. So.
Also, I just put it together, Brittany Naumann. I did know her.
So when she came, Rick Spencer is in charge of alumni, I believe, and held a get together with all the new students. And so he always gives out T-shirts. One T-shirt for the freshman who comes the longest distance, and then the freshman who has the most relatives. So Brittany got the T-shirt for coming the longest distance, because she was coming from San Diego. And then she got the T-shirt for having the most relatives, which at last count was 83 relatives that had gone to North Central. So
North Central is definitely a family affair.
Yeah, and that was another thing that I don't think I really appreciated. When you're 18 or 19, you're thinking about yourself. You're only thinking about yourself. You're thinking about your future. You're really not thinking about the past. So it really didn't sink in that, that we were related to A. Smith and the first president. So that kind of got me thinking about our family tree, and I started doing more research about our family tree and realized that he was my great-great-great-grandfather. So every generation now, for I think 7 generations, we've had somebody at North Central. So my great-grandfather was a music teacher at North Central for 70 years. And then my grandfather went to the seminary at North Central. So it's just been, it's more than an alma mater, it's really part of our family. So.
I think that's nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice you would give to current North Central College students?
Go to North Central. and study hard, and don't wait till your junior year to start studying. Start a little bit sooner. No, I think the internship opportunities are really important. I think an internship can really trigger a passion or an interest in your life and can really motivate you, get you going in a certain direction. So I think internships are great. They really are.
Well, and I think they're moving to like at least one as a requirement for graduation. Like you have to do something that's not just class.
Well, after the Washington semester, I know Professor Froelich got the college involved in the Model UN. And so I think I've read a lot of good stories about students that have done that program. So I think that's so important. Life-changing, I think.
I did Model UN.
Did you?
Loved it. I don't do I don't do anything remotely related to it, but it was.
But it's an experience you'll always remember. You'll never forget it.
Well, and I think the way, at least the professor I had who did it, it wasn't like, okay, we're gonna go and we're gonna try and pass the most resolutions and win.
Yeah.
It was like, no, we're gonna learn about the country we're representing, and we're gonna behave as they would behave, so we can learn the intricacies of.
Right.
And that's, I guess,
right.
North Central. Do you have any last minute, maybe reflections about North Central and its impact in your life?
I just think it was a well-rounded education, and I really enjoyed being able to get to know my professors. In fact, I think for a long time we'd get together at Professor Froelich's house every Wednesday night, and we'd sit around and debate, social issues and how to make the world a better place. And those memories have stuck. And after being in track for those 4 years in North Central, that stuck with me. I'm still running to this day. My knees are still good, so I can thank Alcarius for learning about enjoying or appreciating running and learning to run for fun. So,
when you got the call that you were getting this award, what were your initial reactions?
Well, I was really honored. Must have been a slow year. No, I was really, really, really honored. I was speechless. I did 30 years ago. I got the Young Alumni Award, and I remember getting the letter in the mail and opening it up and said, "You got the Alumni Award." And I was so overjoyed to find out that I still qualified as the Young Alumni Award. But this time, not so lucky. That's another thing that changed. 30 years ago, it was a letter. This time, it was an email.
It's more environmentally friendly. Right? I have one more thing.
I have one. Just jumping off of that one. It's clear that the college still keeps you in mind and knows about you. But how much do you bring back to the college? Obviously, your daughter is gone there. Do you still have friends that you interact back and forth? Is it still a part of your life still, or is it still kind of something in the past?
Well, we've Rick Spencer comes out, makes a visit 2 or 3 times a year, and then I've got brothers and sisters and 15 or 20 nieces and nephews that live in Chicago, and so we go back. And my sister Nancy Hansen's on the board of trustees, so we've gone. I try to go back every couple of years, every year or so, and stop in, make a tour of the college, go into the various buildings, Old Main, and it feels like it's still a part of my life. When the college bought A.A. Smith's house, we went back and got to do a tour of the house, which was, I thought, really, really moving to be able to step inside that house. So we go back all the time, lots of relatives, lots of friends, 50th high school reunions right around the corner. So it's fun to see the changes in Naperville. Some people's hometowns go south, but Naperville just seems to get better and better, and North Central gets better and better. And every time I go back, I get to do a tour of another building that's been built. So I think the school has done a great job of just managing growth too. So
Did you meet your wife at North Central, or was that after? Was it weird?
I met her at North Central, and then we split up after 20 years. And so I'm now remarried. Yep.
Not in my notes. That was more just my curiosity.
Yeah.
And then you've been a longtime supporter of North Central College as well. Why do you find it important to give back?
I like to see this North Central succeed and get better. Like I said, it's more than an alma mater. It's part of our family. So it's like supporting your family almost. And so when the Science Center came around, Rick spoke to me about that, and that just seemed like once again, science courses were not my strength at North Central. It was the history and those courses, the political science courses, but I thought the Science Center made the most sense at that time for Naperville. I remember years ago, the Bell Labs were like the first high-tech really company to come to Naperville. So fortunately, North Central has grown along with Naperville in terms of tech and in science.
It's a super cool building. You're gonna love it.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I'm not.
I hear that students love to hang out in it. It's almost like another coffee house, if you will, for students. So it sounds like it's a great place for.
Yeah, there is an actual coffee house in there, and then they've got like all these cool little like nook areas. With
Yeah.
Different furniture.
Yeah.
You could do like meetings if you're doing like group projects.
Right.
So it's
Right.
nice.
Yeah, when I was in junior high, I also had a job at North Central. I took care of the rats for the psychology department at North Central. So I had to go in, and the rats would be there with operations in the middle going on. And so then I would take care of the rats, I would take care of their cages. And so I was always hanging around North Central from as far back as I can remember, from summer jobs, waxing floors in Old Main, to taking care of the rats in the psychology department, you name it. So it's really, like I said, it's part of the family.
Anything else I need to know or that you want to tell me?
I don't know. I bored you to death. Oh, what else?
Oh, let's talk about you being a super lawyer. Just because I'm obsessed with that.
So there's awards that that different groups come out with, and the super lawyers are awarded to the top 5% of attorneys in your field. And so we are overjoyed to be selected. I think this is our 10th year. So to be selected at top 5%, there's a lot of attorneys in Southern California, so it was really rewarding. So, and then we were recognized by Forbes magazine in Southern California as one of the top construction defect attorneys. And we really pride ourselves in working really hard, and we're persistent. We don't give up. We're tenacious in a nice way. But we get the job done, I think, with the least amount of drama as we can. I think you need to be civil, and you really need to have a working relationship with the attorneys on the other side. That's the only way to get to the finish line with something that's fair for both sides. So it's really very rewarding to have gotten that award.
So how many people are in this office with you?
So we have eight to nine. We've got several attorneys, and then we've got 2 paralegals. We've got 2 marketing people, bookkeeper, and then we use contract attorneys. So if we need to gear up, we've got 3 or 4 other attorneys that we work with on a regular basis to gear up for a trial.
More my own curiosity.
Yeah.
How many people?
So in the smaller firm, I worked in larger firms, and it's so nice to be in a boutique firm where Everybody has known each other for a long time. We've been together for a good 15 to 16 years. So we can almost finish each other's sentences, which helps, makes things go much smoother.
You're like, the thing we were talking about.
Right, right.
Okay, I think that's.
What else? What else
Double
can I
check.
tell you? Is there any decent stuff in there?
Oh, there's tons of good stuff.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that was great.
We talked about your favorite professor.
What else? God, it's like 45 years ago. I'm trying to think. How else was, I mean, I survived law school, so I must have got a decent education at North Central. It was really challenging. My first year, I was going like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? But then, for law review, what they do is they have a writing competition of everybody in the second year class, and they select 5% of that, or maybe it's 10%. And like, I remember writing it, and I got done with it, and whatever the topic was, and I said, this is terrible, and I ripped it up into shreds, and I started over from scratch with about 12 hours to go, rewrote it, turned it in, and then won. And so I was just overjoyed, but I mean, I know I learned to write at North Central. If anything, what I learned to do was write, because there was so much writing at North Central. You couldn't just kind of like go to a class with 200 people and do a multiple choice test. I think North Central forces you to write.
And I think particularly in something like political science, it's concise writing. It's get your point across.
Right.
Get it out. Like, don't meander around.
Right. Get to the point. So.
That's it.
What else? I can't think of anything else.
Next time we come back.
Another 30 years. That's probably not happening. Okay.
If you were closer to the college, we probably would have done this in a Smith house.
Yeah. Did you see there's an old picture floating around of our whole family on the back steps. Have you seen that?
Archives I have not seen that, but the archive should have it.
Oh, there's another thing. You got to hear this story.
Okay.
This is like, at least for me, so when I was 15 years old, my mother passed away at the age of 36. So obviously that was traumatic. My dad was working as a professor. There's 4 children. But he ends up meeting Herbie Gambertsfelder Barrett, and they end up getting married. She was the registrar at the college. She had 4 children. First of all, we thought our parents had lost their minds, marrying a spouse-to-be that had 4 children. So all of a sudden, we had 8 children in our family. But Herbie's, I want to say, great-great-grandfather was S.J. Gambertsfelder, Solomon Gambertsfelder, who was the first president of ETS, Evangelical Theological Seminary. So A.A. Smith knew Solomon Gambertsfelder in the 1870s and 1880s. And flash forward 100 years, their ancestors get married. I mean, it's like unbelievable. Unbelievable. So anyway.
I love that. That's amazing. That's crazy.
It is. I've got something you can, if you want to read about it. I just pulled it up from Kimberly's, the archivist. So.
She left.
Oh, she did. Okay.
Yes, there's a new woman named Rebecca, but.
Okay. But I just thought that's almost like 6 degrees of separation, almost.
That's like a rom-com plot, like.
What's that?
Like a romantic comedy plot where it's like these 2 people who just happen to meet.
Yeah. 100 years, 150 years later. So anyway. That's all I could think of.